Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Preservation Podcast. Super excited about this. We are live from Hong Kong today, and so we're excited about this. I got, as always, my trusty sidekick, Mark Seither. Mark, how are you doing today, man?
Doing great. I was listening to some of our old podcasts, and I always say I'm doing fantastic, so I'm trying to break away from that constant intro. But yes, we are not coming from Hong Kong. We've got J.Rotbart coming from Hong Kong. It looks like I'm coming from the side of a barn, and Josh is coming from the backdrop of Saw 3. So,
yes.
I
actually Saw 2.
Saw 2,
but yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Want to play a game?
Yes. Live from my basement.
Always interesting. Yeah. So today we have Josh Rotbart of J.Rotbart Company. And they are in the precious metals industry, and they do, I'll let him go into it, but they do quite a bit in the precious metals industry. And we're just really excited to hear about how he went from Tel Aviv to Hong Kong and busted into this industry. So, Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, guys. Good morning, good evening to you. Yeah, nice to be here. Nice to chat with you guys.
Yeah. Just for the record, so Josh is in Hong Kong.
In the barn and in the basement.
Everything's good. So just remember, it's morning time for Josh. It's nighttime for us. So just kind of keep that. So if he looks all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because he's already had 3 cups of coffee. Mark and I have had 5 cups of coffee, and we're exhausted. So
yes.
Awesome. I had a crying baby for 2 hours between 1:30 to 3:30. So.
Perfect.
Let's see how it
Mark,
goes.
you guys can console each other.
Yes, yeah, we've been going through that too. I don't know what it is. Like, both our kids were like sleeping through the night at 6 weeks, but they hit this phase where it's from like 2:30 to 4:30. It's just mayhem. And the other thing is our 3-year-old. He just walks into our room at like 5 this morning. And like it's nobody's business. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You can go back to sleep. Like go back to bed, please. But he's like,
kids.
Hey, Dad, you ready for breakfast? I was like, no. So,
they're trying to make us miserable, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yes, just like we made our parents miserable, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's kick this off. Hope everybody has a cup of tea or a beer or something awesome there, or a coffee they're going to sip on, and we're going to kick it into this episode.
Yeah.
So, we'll start off. So, Josh, give us just a quick recap of what Robart is and kind of what you guys do, just the micro version, because we're obviously going to dig way into it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, J.Rotbart Company, we're basically a bullion house, sitting, based out of Hong Kong. But we do a lot of services. The core business is buying and selling precious metals for clients, so bars, coins, gold, silver, platinum, palladium. But it's much more than that. We offer the storage globally, transportation, finance against precious metals. So really a lot of stuff around precious metals, and we look at us like really the ultimate kind of one-stop shop for anyone interested in metals. And it's relatively in high level in the terms that most of our clients are relatively wealthy. It's not a retail shop, so it's really more on the higher end of the transactions for clients. And we've been doing it. I've been doing this for 11 years now. Out of them, 5 years under the banner of J.Rotbart as my own business. And yeah, it's been. We're here from our office. Actually, last week in our office because we're upgrading to a bigger office next week. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I'm sure we're going to talk more about it later.
Yeah, so business must be good if you're upgrading. That's or is your brother getting a smaller office and you're just getting a bigger one?
I'm kicking. Yeah, so it right on. So it's a family business, and we try to avoid seeing each other to keep it running. I'm joking. I mean, seriously, 2020 was a good year in the precious metals market. I mean, it was busy, and a lot of clients bought a lot of metals. So yeah, I mean, nothing to. We're lucky to be one of the. It can be random. This whole COVID thing, it was rather random. You either had a lot of work or you lost your job. So I
right.
think we were quite fortunate on that to be on the good side of COVID.
Yeah.
So you said you're a bullion house. I gotta ask. I mean, sure, if our listeners want to know, are you literally sitting on a big pile of gold right now? Is that what you're sitting on?
Right next to me. No, so the way we work, the way we work. Actually, most of it is actually stored in in those big vaults like you see in those movies. So mostly next to the airport in Hong Kong or in the Freeport facility in Singapore or in Zurich. So if you go there, you see piles of gold or silver. Here we're quite modest. We have just a small pile just to to look at it when we're getting down a bit and smile a bit.
That would probably make me smile. Yeah, just be like, oh man, that is a huge stack of gold. No, my day's better.
We have a lot of time clients coming to the vault, and they're very excited when they see their gold. But when they go first time when they go into, they kind of sometimes they expect shit to see like Alibaba's cave with like boxes with jewelry and gold coins, and sometimes they're a little bit kind of disappointed that it's a warehouse. So there are shelves and everything is packed and labeled, and it's not like you're going into a movie. But I have to say, some of the facilities we use are really are breathtaking, especially the one in Singapore. If you go inside, you really feel like you're in a Mission Impossible, Ocean 11, kind of this type of movies, with the design and the vault doors and that. It's really cool.
I wasn't supposed to say anything, but I think Tom Cruise and George Clooney are breaking into the vault as we speak. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on.
Because they follow our podcast pretty closely. So
yeah,
right.
I knew you were going to be here.
And luckily, there's always insurance, right?
That's right. That's right.
So,
I mean,
perfect.
Me personally, I think I wouldn't care so much what the inside of the vault looked like. I would just want to make sure that, the wall, it's just like a hidden wall where you have to put your hand somewhere and the wall slides away. As long as that's in place, I don't care what the inside looks like. Like, let me go to the vault. Yep, there we go. Move that bookshelf and I'm in the vault.
So there's a facility we use that it's the safety deposit boxes like you have in the banks, but they took it to the next level in terms they don't have numbers on the box. So when you go inside, there's a face recognition, and you go inside and you show your face and it recognizes you and you pass a card, and there's like this pointer that points to the box that's yours.
Oh
wow!
So basically, you go there and like you see this red point pointing to your box, and then you press it, and then you have the lock, and then it's pretty standard. But it's just nice to go into a room, no numbers, nothing, and then you just got this red pointer showing you your box.
So don't go to your safe deposit box if you've just been in a bar fight and have like two black eyes and a twisted nose, basically.
Right. Yeah,
you're never.
They're not gonna let you in.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to dive into more of like how you guys do that, right? Like just the whole process. But the first episode, we want to know like how you guys ended up in Hong Kong and even broke into this market, right? I mean, some people go to college and they're like, hey, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a doctor. And not very many say, hey, I'm going to move to Hong Kong and I'm going to get into precious metals, right? So really excited to dive more into that. And before we get into that, kind of want to know a little bit more about you, right? And how you got to this point. So, let's go back to, 8-year-old Josh. That's probably far back enough. But was 8-year-old Josh like, hey, I'm gonna be the gold guy. I'm gonna be the gold dealer, right? Or what was your your childhood like and your aspirations? And let's start there.
So I grew up in Israel, and just out of Tel Aviv, so it's really relatively small, relatively rough neighborhood, right on the Mediterranean. It's a beautiful place, but and I was reading a lot, so I can't say I had a lot of aspiration in terms. I can't say I'm the kind of the entrepreneur that I was running my own kiosk when I was 9, and and selling Coke cans on the beach when I was 12. That was my brother, by the way, selling soft drinks on the beach when he was until he got pulled by the municipality police for not having a license. But that's not me. I was a pretty a kid reading books and just thinking of whatever I could do later in life, but nothing specific. Actually, it's not like I was. One thing I can say, I always kind of had a hard work ethic, so I did work hard. I worked in a gasoline station since I was 12 in the summers. Pumping cars, cleaning their winches and all that. But it wasn't about like getting entrepreneur, having a bright idea. It's just getting some pocket money for the summer, like a lot of kids are doing. So they definitely worked hard, but good work ethics. Like still remember taking the first bus at 5:15 a.m. as a 12-year-old, and then taking the bus for half an hour, walking 15 minutes to get to the gas station and spend the day there pumping cars. That was it. But yeah, nothing too dramatic. I was pretty geek reading books and just doing. Yeah.
So real quick, what was that like growing up in Israel, though? I mean, Israel's kind of been, I don't know, for lack of a better term, at war for, well, since its inception, right? Since the 40s. And so what was it like living under that umbrella? Did it affect your day to day much, or did you just kind of get used to it, or what was that like?
I think it's pretty standard childhood. I mean, you get used to the kind of what you call the tension. There's always tension in the air. You get used to it, and the news around. So people are really news addicts. There's a news on the radio every hour. There are few news, in the on the TV. It's pretty standard. One thing that I actually more about less about the security situation because that's something you get used to. So there's a war every few years. Read about it. It doesn't concern you. It didn't
Right.
concern us until later in life because the wars are always on the borders, right? So you don't really feel it. I think
Gotcha.
later when I was a student and later then we got more of the kind of internal suicide bombs and stuff like that. This is where it got pretty nasty. Um, but yeah, it was relatively fun childhood. It was very I think back, it was Israel at the time was quite socialist. So there was no we had two TV channels, government channels, one in Hebrew, one in Arabic. Those there 20% of the population is Arabic. Three radio stations. The phone line. I remember phone line as a child. We had to wait 5 years since you got five. Like a good socialist country, right?
Yeah,
File the
right.
application for the phone and you get it 5 years later, unless you know someone in the government that will make sure that you get it. But then on the other side, it's really sense of community because obviously you have two TV channels, everyone watching the same. So I think rating was like 85%. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
whenever you watch on TV, everyone knew what you're talking about. Everyone watched the same TV show. There was no fragmentation to like, I'm watching this, you're watching that. It was all like, all watching the same. And I think my generation, if you talk to Israel, is my generation. I'm 40, almost 47. We still remember by heart, catchy phrases from TV shows we saw the kids because we all watched the same thing. And every
Right.
summer they were doing reruns because they would never buy new shows to screen because why spend the money? And you won't believe it. Even when I was a kid, the television was still black and white, not because they broadcast, but in the name of equality, they said, "Oh, some people don't have money to buy color TV." So the broadcaster installed a special device to delete colors from the.
Wow.
And it's a real story. Like, no, not everyone can afford color TV, so everyone's gonna watch black and white.
Woo.
Man, I
mean,
didn't know Israel was so backwards.
how extreme do they take that? Because I'm missing two teeth, and would they just go to every house and start pulling the same teeth out of everyone else's mouth to make sure everyone looked like me?
Right.
I mean, like, hey, sorry guys, I was born without them. So
yeah, it's funny. My wife comes from a kibbutz. I don't know if you know kibbutz. It's a very
Yeah.
socialist kind of a community.
That was my next
And
question. You got it. That's good. No, keep going.
and over there, the kids would grow up in a kid's house, so the parents wouldn't raise their kids. I mean, it's very extreme, right? And they
Yeah.
wouldn't buy clothes. There were clothes that everyone were wearing the same clothes. You would say, well, it would come in the summer. It was summer. They would open the big, huge community wardrobe. You would take whatever you want. And then when it's winter, you would bring it back. So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's upside and downside. I can tell you today, I think, again, I know I'm talking to you Americans, you see things differently, but I can tell you today, I do appreciate having some type of community feeling, some type of
Yeah.
if you want a safety net for people. At the time, it was exaggerated. We don't need to erase people's colors from TV in name of equality. But I mean, even today, let's say healthcare in Israel is still universal. So, let's say
Sure.
right now, even Israel, 70% are vaccinated against COVID, and that's because we have a very robust. There's a clinic. Every little village has a clinic. We can go get free healthcare. So I do appreciate this. It's
Yeah.
but it's different times. It feels like a
Sure.
very long time ago.
Well, and I mean, a part of, because I did see that, they had so many people that were vaccinated so early, and another kind of another, here in the States, there were some areas that put some pretty heavy restrictions on, hey, only these people can get vaccinated. They tried to, and I think it was New York that put super heavy penalties on if you accidentally vaccinated someone outside the small circle, and then they just had a ton of vaccines going bad because they're like,
yeah,
I don't want to like get penalized, so they're just like, well, I'll throw this one away, like, versus just like, no, just start sticking arms left, right, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Israel it did very well again because the infrastructure is there in terms of the nurses, the doctors, the clinics. By the way, same here in Hong Kong. We have they just rolled out a vaccine. You have dozens of centers you can go and get a free shot because it's the same thing. They have a public healthcare system, so the infrastructure is there in terms of having the doctors, the nurses,
well, for
and the
lack of going into
facilities to bring people in.
yeah, but for lack of going into a whole bunch of politics, because there's a whole bunch of other. Anyways, we'll save that for another.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
No, but I do want to go back to that sense of community, which I think is really important, and which America used to have really drastically in our small towns and things like that, and that's kind of been stripped away. But how did that kind of affect it? Obviously your wife was raised in a kibbutz, and did I say that right? Kibbutz, yeah. But that kind of made Israel, or the country of Israel, very kind of tight knit, right? Because everybody they strove for that equality, right? But you also had to work and pull your weight too, correct?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no shortcut. I mean, the downside is you need to know people to. Sometimes you need to know people to progress.
Sure.
But I think I think it gives a lot of security when you grow up. Again, they have having roots. It kind of provides stability. So you end up raising pretty relatively healthy people socially. And then you have wars, so then they go crazy. But that's that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and to tie it into your upbringing also. So you did a lot of reading, right? And you read a lot as a kid. Which, by the way, if there's any of our listeners who have kids, maybe have your kids listen to this and be like, "Hey, the guy getting interviewed did a lot of reading." The ones who didn't, they're in a barn in a basement interviewing him. So maybe you should pick up your books and read. So, but were there any particular like standout people that like you read their stuff and you're like, this person's on it, this is inspiring, and kind of pushed you to I guess either to excellence or to be an entrepreneur or just someone you kind of gravitated towards reading wise?
Right. I think, well, first of all, I think I come from our parents are very. I think our father is and still is running his entrepreneur, is running his own accounting firm.
Okay.
So I think kind of he was doing his own business. So I think we're used to coming to his business, and we still remember. And we used to work at his office. He bought at the time. I think it was a big computer when it just started. We took a whole room in his office, invested all his capital in opening a computerized accounting firm. The computer took a room. It was 64K memory. With like those big vinyl side disc, and printer the side of a meeting desk. And we were going the summer and following the instructions on the screen. So we knew what entrepreneurs are. And our parents are divorced, so I think our mother also did her fair share of entrepreneurs. She was working on weekends on different ventures, and from Tupperware stuff to other other things to make ends meet. So I think we saw kind of hardworking, run your own thing, do your own business, kind of, or find a solution that works for you.
So wait,
But
real
also,
quick,
yeah,
Josh, they had Tupperware in Israel.
yeah, it was
That's
called something
amazing.
else. It was called. It wasn't the original Tupperware. I'll be. I
Okay.
don't want to say now, but it was probably a huge infringement of copyright. Now I'm aware of it.
But if anyone lost the lid, everyone had to throw their lids away. So
Yeah,
gotta keep it all the same.
It was still going. Yeah, it was. So I still remember, those ladies coming to our small living room,
Yep.
and our mother kind of like pitching them, this whole thing. So we had this vibe of, you need to do whatever you need to do,
Yeah.
and it's not like a 9 to 5 kind of job
Yeah.
that you're doing. But I was reading a lot of books of like, just famous people and stuff, and it's always, always inspiring. Whatever, Columbus, or even composers, or like characters from history. Nothing particular, but just a general, I think, environment of work hard, do whatever you need to do, find ideas, or find the niche that works for you. And I think we saw our parents do that, and it definitely affected us.
Right. So to kind of reel it back, so your first job, you were working at you said a gas station, right?
Yeah, gas
Oh,
station, and this huge computer, putting
that's
those
right.
big covered
With the
cards,
big
printing, like accounting ledgers. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that is so funny because I'm sure that a lot of people saw that and they're like, "What is that guy doing, man? A computer? Yeah, way to go!
Yeah.
It's a fad. Like nothing's
Yeah.
gonna take over humans."
Just like color television, total
Yes.
fad.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, it just that it was a
think
terrible investment in the business. He bought his computer, put it's all in a room, put all the capital, the business capital in it, and 2 years later they issued the personal computer.
Oh.
So suddenly it was outdated. Nobody needed an accountant to put a ledger in this big, papers, and then became obsolete like within 2 years. I think he still paid the loan on the computer, years later, when he still had a laptop. He had a laptop by the time he finished paying for this big old computer.
Well, hopefully he was able to get his money back by selling it to a museum. I mean, I'm sure someone's got to be interested in that.
You know what, Mark? I'm going to ask him later today. I'm going to ask him when he wakes up what he did with this computer. I'm curious, because you're right. It should have been a collector item, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's in the exhibit of. Could you believe people actually bought this? Oh no, that's awesome. So then you went from because you became you eventually became a lawyer, right? You went to law school and did the corporate lawyer thing. So how long did you how long were you in that field, and did you think like, hey, I'm interested in law, I'm interested in being a corporate lawyer, and I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life, or was that just more of a stepping stone of, hey, I just got to do this, and then I'm going to go on to own my own practice or do my own entrepreneurial thing?
To be honest, there was not much planning. So most of my life were not planned. They were kind of spontaneous and going with the flow.
My kind of guy.
Yeah, it was just my parents, a typical Jews from Eastern Europe origin, were like, you need to learn something respectful and practical. You need to study law. Like, no, I want to study cinema. Like, cinema? We're not gonna pay you for cinema. You're gonna pay for 3 years and it's gonna be law. Go and study. Otherwise, get out of the house. So I went. Fair enough. I went to law school. I did fun though. I mean, it was fun. I studied in Jerusalem in the Hebrew University, which is Jerusalem is a beautiful city, very special place to live in. So I was very fortunate to live there. But at the same time, that was where I first had my first business, because when I moved to Jerusalem, to this really nice kind of old neighborhood, 100-year-old kind of small houses, I saw this standalone house which has a coffee shop that went out of business in the ground floor, and one apartment on top of it. So I just me and my friend, my another student, we just took over the coffee shop. I went to I moved to live on top of it, and basically that's what I did most of my law school. We had this coffee bar in our building right underneath my house. So I was studying in the day and then running this bar at night. Um, which was it was very nice. It wasn't very good for, I would say, for law school. It's really hard to, to be
Yeah.
entrepreneur, run a coffee shop, cook, have drinks at night, and then go to law school in the morning. But it was a good way to pass those years. But yeah, when I graduated, I went to, I moved back to Tel Aviv, and I started working just because, that what I that was my profession.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, and it's just lawyers listening to this. I think more of them are aware of it. Lawyers are usually miserable. If you look at the work satisfactions, lawyers usually are at the bottom.
Yeah.
If you look at suicide and divorce rates, lawyers are usually the top.
Yeah.
So after 3 years, I mean, I was like, I'm done. I need to get out. I need to get out of it. I mean, sitting in the I could imagine it's nice office in Tel Aviv. I can see the Mediterranean from my window. It's always very good, but it was just not for me.
Yeah.
You're like, I can
And
see
then
the Mediterranean, and I just want to dive headfirst and never come out.
exactly, I don't want to sit in the office.
Yeah.
I want to stay with my underwear and just run to the ocean. Why do I need to sit in the office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, is it the same in Israel? I mean, because I know I have, the lawyers here in the U.S., especially on the corporate side. I mean, it's a grind for especially like the first 8 to 10 years. I mean, you're doing the 80-hour weeks, just basically it's miserable, basically.
Yeah, same thing. You don't earn much because you're counting on the fact that in 8-10 years you'll make good money. I wasn't built to wait 8-10 years and be miserable for 8-10 years.
Right.
That was just too much.
Yeah.
Right.
Too much misery.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you need to do
So
more fun rather than be miserable.
Yeah. So real quick, back to the coffee shop. So what kind of coffee shop was it? Like an Italian style coffee shop, or was it Israeli? Like, what is an Israeli coffee shop?
Israel has a great coffee culture. That's why
Okay.
Starbucks moved to Israel and failed. They couldn't make it in Israel because no one wants to drink Starbucks when you have so many good coffee shops.
Right.
So it's really actually it was the best coffee in Jerusalem, best coffee beans, Italian coffee beans, best Italian machine. Just that's light food. Evening time, you dim the light, put on the music, and then people just pour and have beer, cocktails, and stuff. Um, the downside was I was living on top of it of the establishment. So when I wasn't working, I would still hear the music and the loud people. I would call my partner like, "Do you mind? Hey, I'm trying to get some sleep here." Like,
Yeah.
hey, that's your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Just
hey,
be happy. There's so many people here.
Yeah, the fact that there's so many people here means you're making more money. So, earplugs,
Yeah, but I'm like, yeah, but I need to go to school tomorrow. Listen.
But hey, you know where to get plenty of free coffee, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, listen, I drank too much coffee that time. I would get caffeine intoxicated or start shaking sometimes.
Yeah.
Having too much coffee. But yeah, it was fun. And again, it's all kind of very Israeli, clients. On the weekends, the place was closed because most businesses are closed on from Friday night to Saturday night. So
Okay.
it was
That's right.
closed
Yeah.
during those Saturday night to Saturday night. And people will start hanging out in my living room on Friday night because the coffee shop was closed, the bar was closed, so we were hosting them at my living room right on top of it. So it was kind of like nice to see the same guys, on Thursday night, and then Friday night. So tomorrow we're coming to your place. So we had the waiters, the waitresses, the guys that used to come every night, just hang out on Friday night, sitting in the living room having.
And that's when you bring out a thing of Tupperware and you say, "I'm glad you guys could make it tonight." Now,
Right. Yeah.
I've got these various sizes of Tupperware.
Yeah.
I hope you brought your wallet because that's what you're gonna do now.
That's right. Squeak, squeak. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, what inspired you to make that shift from because obviously you're like, hey, I'm doing the corporate lawyer thing. I want to drown myself. I'm going to do something else, right? What was the first thing that made you think like, hey, I want to do something else? And then how did you land on really the precious metals industry?
Okay, so further, even before being a lawyer, I went to the States because I just couldn't stand it. And a friend told me, listen, there's a business opportunity in the States. And I moved to the States and and helped basically became a partner in this retail business, selling toys and stuff like that in shopping malls. Started in California, moved north to Oregon and Washington, which was very nice. So that kind of was, if you'd like, that was a kind of first time of being an entrepreneur, of running like a relatively big business,
Mm-hmm.
more corporate, more of a corporate business, not a coffee shop, but wearing a suit, meeting mall executives, signing lists, employing people, and all that. Doing all that. That was kind of the first, I would say, good school. I think the U.S. is quite good in kind of teaching you how to work properly. I mean, the bureaucracy. The first you need to go, the tax system, the city, county, state, federal. You have to be organized. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just come and be it's not like a standalone, basically a coffee or a bar where you can do whatever you want. So it was a good kind of
Right.
place to put both the kind of corporate lawyer experience maybe to the test, but know how to wear a suit and go talk to executives.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a really good experience to run a business in a more proper business environment in the States. That gave me quite a lot of, I would say, insight that helped me later. But then I wanted to move back to Israel, moved back to law. But then something quite unexpected happened, and I met a girl, and when I was back in Israel, shamefully, and and that girl was a ballet dancer.
Oh,
And shortly
well
after I
played,
met her,
sir.
she's like, yeah, shortly after, she's like, listen, I'm in the pursuit of my career. And she just came back, I think, from work in Eastern Europe, or maybe even in the States, or Canada, I can't remember. And she's like, I'm going to New York for auditioning. And we were dating for a while. I said, okay. So she went to New York for a month and auditioned there. And I think probably the last night she was there, or called me and said, "Listen, what do you think? I just saw in the studio where I'm training. I saw this notice on audition for the Hong Kong Ballet Company. What do you think?" I'm like, okay, I mean, we've been dating for a few months. It wasn't very. Wasn't that we were married or anything. I said, yeah, try it. I had a friend that lived in Hong Kong, and I said, listen, I know Hong Kong is a great city, try it out. So she did the audition for Hong Kong Ballet. She got accepted. She came back to Israel and like, okay, now what do we do? And that's even before there was no pressure. There was nothing. I was working as a lawyer basically. And then the question is, am I going to quit my job and follow this young ballerina to Hong Kong, or say, or just break up and then stay there?
I think most men would say, "Well, I'm going to follow the ballerina to Hong Kong." Hey, boss! In 2 weeks, you're going to notice I haven't been here for 2 weeks, so that's my notice.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's exactly what happened. I mean, she came here first. She was here for like 2 weeks. Said, okay, you gave me the green light, and basically I packed everything and just came here. Jobless, staying in a. I know ballerina doesn't earn. They don't earn much money. Um, at least not unless they're in New York or Moscow. Any other place, they're they're
So
cheap.
you're like, man, do you want to reapply for New York?
Exactly. And then we ended up in this 100 square feet flat in this busy, 5 floors, woke up, 100 square feet. Basically, there was a bed, a mini bar, fridge, and then one kind of compartment, which is like the shower, the toilet, the kitchen.
Yeah,
And basically,
Josh, when we were talking about that on the pre, like I was still trying to figure out 100 square feet, and that is small.
It's small.
I mean,
it's
the
really
average
small.
hotel room is like 350 square feet.
Yeah. So it's small. Yeah. It's much. Yeah, it's tiny. And on top of that, we were facing this huge department store. We were facing their billboard, so we had constantly the billboard lighting into our apartment until 11 p.m. Oh. So there was arriving Hong Kong. She picked me up at the airport, living this humid. Hong Kong in the summer is humid and wet. It's raining. Going to this, kind of it's all pouring rain, super hot, super humid. And it was funny, because I was there. My wife had one day off, and then she went to work, and then I was sitting there like, and now what? So like, I'm in Hong Kong. I have a few, maybe couple of people I know that through the friend that lived here, he hooked us up, with a couple of people I know. But what do I do then? And it was, frankly, it was tough. It was very tedious. First of all, Hong Kong, first first time you get there could be quite. It's very intense city. It's I call it New York on steroids. It's more dense. It's a bit, the weather is intense. Having having billboard lighting your room every day until 11 p.m. is intense. Like we were literally sitting there. There was nothing to say. We're sitting on the bed. That was our sitting area. We're sitting on bed, and then we're like. Then suddenly every night, the lights on the billboard would laugh like, okay, it's 11. We can start getting ready to bed now because we know it's 11 p.m. It's time to wrap our day.
Yeah. What was the billboard advertising? Because there's no way that you've forgotten that.
I can tell you, it was this Prada, fancy Hong Kong type advertising. It was a Prada, anorectic, cocaine chic teens,
Like, hey, do you want to be as miserable as her? Buy our clothes.
Yeah.
She hasn't slept in weeks.
Yeah, typical the big fashion conglomerate, brainwash for masses of mainlanders, Chinese coming to shop because that's a sign of success. So yeah, I remember it very 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 well. But yeah, that's what actually, and then I was there, basically not knowing what to do, trying to think how to settle in this new city, and it's a jungle. Hong Kong is a big urban jungle. So I was meeting people, trying to think what to do. The option maybe to try to get a license for lawyer was there, but I didn't want to do it in Israel. Why would I do it in Hong Kong, which means more studying, more licensing, more that. I printed a business card, just with my number and my name, and start trying to meet people and telling them I'm looking for a job. For 2 months, it was just a disaster. I got really depressed. Starting into my savings, getting tired of this 100 square feet, like feeling like the walls are closing on me, like in Rosemary's Baby or something, like
Good reference, by the way. I like that. Good reference.
and then you can say how old I am, right? And then a friend that I have a good friend that moved to Bangkok at the time said, "Come see me," and I just went there, just being out of Hong Kong after 2 months of this kind of very tedious job looking. And I still remember, walking here, the fancy malls, looking at all the bankers and the finance people, everything dressed so well. Everyone looked, very happy, probably making millions. And I'm like just walking there trying to pretend being happy and feel confident going to see my next meeting and trying to send my next CV, my next resume. But anyway, when I came, so I went to Bangkok kind of to refresh my mind a bit, spend a few days there. It was great city. First time I was there. And when I came back, I think I believe in energy, and I believe sometimes we can summon blessings or curses, depends what we do. And I think something about being away, being refreshed. I came back, and actually I had someone I met a few days earlier calling me, said, "Listen, I heard you're looking for a job. There are logistics companies in Hong Kong that are managed by Israelis. So maybe they ship gold, they ship diamonds. They're in this secure freight forwarding industry. Maybe try and call them." And they gave me two names of companies. One of them was Brinks, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And the other company was a company I never heard of. I heard of, luckily, called Malka Amit, which is a relatively unknown company, Hong Kong company owned by Israelis. But when he said the name, he said, "You probably don't know them." And I did know them because I had a relative that worked for them in Israel. Like, actually, I know this guy. Let me get in touch with this relative and ask him maybe to make an introduction. And he made an introduction to this company, and then another friend I know, the friend I lived in New York, they lived in Hong Kong, knew the Israeli guy running this Malka Amit company in Hong Kong, and he also gave threw some good words on me, and they called me. So that blind date, they called me and they said, "Listen, we heard good stuff about you. Why won't you come into the office?" And actually, don't come to the office. We'll meet you at the coffee shop downstairs. It really felt like a blind date. So I met the guy in the coffee shop, and then after like half an hour, like, "Okay, you're fine. Let's go up to the office and you meet my boss." And then when we went up to, but this is kind of Israeli kind of thing, like being careful and first see who you are, and trying to see whether you're a good guy or what your story is.
Yeah, I'm sure when they
Um,
wanted to meet you, they're like, "Hey, we can come over to your house." You're like, no.
no, yeah, exactly. Listen, it's funny, but we were meeting people, and you want to keep face. You don't want to. And I still remember we were waiting for everyone. We would live in this other area, not where the other Westerners, the expats live.
Uh huh.
And people that we were meeting people, to make connections, to get into to create the network in this new city. And people would live like, you want us to, they were pulling a taxi to go home, and they asked, do you want to take this taxi? Like, no, no, it's okay, you'll take the taxi. Why? Because me and my wife would go down and take the night bus right back to our place. Like, no, you take the
Yeah.
taxi, we'll take
Yeah.
the
No.
next
No.
one.
No.
Everyone are gone.
Yeah.
Everyone are gone. Okay, let's go take the bus.
Yeah.
This kind of
Yes.
mindset.
Yeah. No.
um
They call it the fake it till you make it. I don't really like that term, but I totally understand it, right? Like, it's just like, you know what? Less is more. I don't want you to know that I take the night bus. So, yeah, you take the taxi.
yeah, listen, you have to play the game in a way. I mean, it's especially it's a
Yeah.
delicate situation when you actually want people to you want people to feel you're not desperate, although you are.
Yeah.
So
You're like, my goal is to get into a 200 square foot apartment. So,
yeah, exactly.
oh, I was gonna say, so you got into that company, and they did the logistics of, hey, so did they just do the shipping, or did they do some of the other services that you now provide?
So it was funny because I was very lucky because when I started there, they brought me on as they call it a management trainee.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, okay, you're a good guy. Let's see if you can do something with you. We don't have anything in particular now. And a few months later, which I wasn't doing much. I was really studying the business. They came to me and said, listen, we have this new line of business because the company Malka Amit traditionally was shipping diamonds. That was the main business. But after, and I'm talking about 2010, after the financial crisis of 2008, they wanted to diversify their business. So I was lucky to come in exactly when they said, "Oh, listen, Josh, we just signed a lease on this big gold vault in Singapore, and we want to do some more business related to precious metals. And we need someone with legal knowledge to liaise with the lawyers just on the contractor and the new contracts for this new line of business. Because we want to do transportation of gold, we want to do storage. And what they did, which was very smart at the time, they signed a contract with JP Morgan to manage their gold vault, new gold vault in Singapore. But the company didn't have enough know-how or didn't really know how to do it. So they hired me more of kind of translating legal English to English. And I was doing that for a while. And then they were thinking, listen, we're having this gold vault in Singapore. And then they start having clients coming over and say, yeah, it's great you have a gold vault, but do you know anyone we can buy gold from? And then my boss at the time was, now, people want to buy gold. Why won't we provide them this service? And he looked right, he looked left. There was no one. It's a logistic company. There was no one he
Mm-hmm.
felt comfortable actually letting start this business. And they're like, Josh, maybe you can start this business, work on the contract, and then work on the business development. And they end up telling me, listen, why won't you move to Singapore, where the center was for this gold business, a new line of business, and help promote, help doing business development over there, push the logistics of the vault, but also push the trading for private individuals. And that was very exciting. Actually, that was it felt like being entrepreneur, although it was for a company,
Mm-hmm.
because no one in the company knew what I was doing. I mean, it was all brand new. We
Yeah.
were the first. I think we were going and meeting in Singapore. My boss at the time was like, "Oh, it's so different to meet bankers rather than private bankers, rather than meeting diamond dealers. These people for 30 years were dealing in the diamond industry. Their counterparty were diamond dealers, precious stone dealers, maybe jewelry companies. Suddenly they were meeting investment bankers, private bankers, bullion banks. So it all felt very new, very very exciting, very exciting. It was a lot of work actually explaining internally to the company exactly what we're doing. But that's where I started getting the knowledge of
Mm-hmm.
really the know-how of the precious metal industry, because we were meeting with refiners. We were meeting again with bullion banks, with high net worth individuals. We were arranging shipments, big shipments of gold from Geneva to, let's say, Singapore, because again, it's all kind of coincided with Singapore becoming a big precious metal center.
Yeah.
So around 2010, 2009, when they opened the Singapore Freeport, then they waived the VAT on gold and silver products in Singapore. They established the Singapore Bullion Market Association. So I was there in those critical years when suddenly Singapore was the new Switzerland. Everyone wanted to open vaults in Singapore. The banks came over, the private individual, the family offices. Everyone wanted to move assets and start allocating assets both to gold because the price was going up, but also moving it to Singapore. So it's very exciting to be really in the center of this of this industry and working for the underdog, because nobody knew who we are. People didn't know even how to spell our name. Malka, are you Amit? Are you Indian company? Where are you from, guys? And we didn't even know where we're from. Are you Israelis? You're Hong Kong company? You're Indian company? What is it? What do you do? So it was interesting because there were a lot of challenges, both to sell it, to the end client, but actually even internally in the company. I remember a board meeting of the big group of the global company, and I was showing a test case of a client moving a big chunk, it was like almost $50 million worth of gold from Switzerland to Asia, from a bank to in Switzerland to our private storage in Singapore. And one of the board members was like raising his hand, like, why would someone take gold from a private bank and bring it and store it with us? I don't get it. So I had to kind of explain some of the top people in the company, that actually the company has a lot to offer for this type of client. There are reasons why someone would take gold out of private bank and move it to us. There are a lot of reasons why someone would do it.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting, and that's kind of where it's all started. And so I spent 2 years in Singapore, which was great, very busy, developing the market there, developing the market in Hong Kong. A lot of time, a lot of night call with American clients that wanted to move assets out of the US. And then I moved back to Hong Kong, and then 5 years ago, said, this is it. There were a lot of changes in the company, and this is where I said, I want to do more. There's a real bit. There are a lot of things we could do, and I don't want to be subject to board that doesn't understand what I'm doing.
Sure.
The tedious politics of a bigger corporation.
Yeah.
And it seems that in big corporations, the more you succeed, the more you need to dedicate time to politics.
Right.
And I'm a terrible politician. I'm too honest. I'm too candid. People don't like that in organization. I think one time I managed to rep a deal with one of the biggest Swiss banks for a vault in Singapore. It did mean I had to tell some of the top executives that, listen, even the internal lawyer at the time, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. I have more experience in law than you are, and the bank is right. We need to change our contract. And they were all freaking out. I wrapped the deal with this big bank, $1 million deal, and then the next day the CEO wants to fire me because I was impolite to the lawyer. Like, what do you want? Do you want me to be impolite and bring you $1 million deal, or you want me to be nice and not getting the deal? What do you prefer?
Yeah.
Right. So all these things, all these things.
Lose gracefully or win with a smile.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
right.
It's good to know that politics are the same across the world. Every corporation, America, Israel, Hong Kong, Singapore, all the same.
Yeah, you believe me, but at the time I bought, went to the store, and you know what book I bought? I hate my boss, How to Deal with It.
Yes.
There's a book, there's an American book named like this.
Well,
and I was reading it religiously.
Well, perfect, because later one of my questions was going to be if you have any good book recommendations. So we'll just put that one down right now.
Don't read the book. Just don't work if you hate your boss. Leave the company. That's my conclusion.
Yes. So because that's kind of a big step, right? That's a big shift, and I think many entrepreneurs that run into that, right, where they're just like, hey, I can't deal with the politics anymore. I could do better on my own. I'm going to branch out. A lot of them get both encouragement from some people who are like, you're a badass, go do it. And then they also get, they get people who are just like, what are you doing? Right? Like, why would you leave a job where you're established? So did you have much of that where it was just some of the people who were trying to tell you not to do it, people who were telling you to do it? Were you able to tune it out? I mean, what was that like headspace wise?
So I think you're right. I think there. I mean, I'm fortunate to have people encouraging me. I think, and that's let's put it this way. Inside the organization, people looked at me like crazy. I mean, I remember meeting one of the top executives. Like, what are you doing? You can sit here, do nothing, and get paid for decades, like me. Why do you need to leave? Right?
Yeah.
Seriously, like people. And but at some point, I felt we used to have like group chats of some of the executive, and people were just complaining. And at some point, I just couldn't stand it. I felt like a loser. Like
Yeah.
I'm sitting here doing nothing, just complaining and ranting, and like, oh, and this is difficult, and and the politics. Like I have to do something, and we weren't born to sit idle and to sit just sit on an ass and complain, right?
Right.
But so I decided I'm gonna leave. I didn't decide I'm gonna open the business. I think the biggest encouragement for me to stay in the same industry was two. Actually, my brother that actually saw me work for 5 years, growing this business for a company, and said, "Listen, why do I?" Because I was thinking of leaving the industry. I had another idea in mind. They're like, "Listen, you have a business here. There is a real business. You've been doing for 5 years. You've been creating your reputation. People know you. You look at the figures. So you're running a division that's profitable. Why would you like to leave that? And why won't you try to do it yourself?" So
Right.
that was one thing. But frankly, it was also my boss, not the one I disliked, but the one that I liked. That actually he was about to leave also, and he was like, "Listen, the business will not go on without you. If you're leaving, we're shutting it down. So let's try to find, and I think you could do a good job in maintaining it, and it will be also for the benefit of our clients. If rather than telling them, oh, listen, we're closing this business down because Joshua is leaving, we don't want to do it anymore. We're logistics, we don't want to do trading of metals. Let's just try and work on cooperation where we can tell clients we're not doing it ourselves, but Joshua is doing it."
Gotcha.
So it was both, I would say, my brother saying, listen, there's a real. So it was me saying, okay, I need to get out of here. I'm done being the loser, whining and ranting about, the
Mm-hmm.
company and the politics and all this. This is it. My brother is telling me, listen, giving me I would say, the confidence that there's a real business. There's a strong business case, rational business case for continue doing this, which it's important. I mean, we have great ideas, but if you can support it in terms of the business plan, then what else do you need?
Right.
And also my boss at the time said, let's try and tie this together so you can enjoy the fruits of some of the work you've done internally within the company. And that actually was a really great launch pad. So when my boss offered me the time to I wouldn't say take over the client base, but at least be able to get in touch with them, because rather than having the gardening leave that a lot of executives are getting, or the non-compete clauses and all that. So rather than sticking to this, saying, listen, you can tell client, we're going to tell clients we're not doing it anymore, but that you're going to do it, then it became kind of a no-brainer, because I had a
Yeah.
good launch pad, I had
Mm-hmm.
a reputation, I knew the people. But still, what I feel, the entrepreneurs, there are two kinds of entrepreneurs. There are the ones that are super confident, they know what they're doing, they wake up in the morning, they know they're gonna conquer the world today, piece by piece, they're on top of their game, they're all pumped up. This is one type. I think there's one type that wake up and we're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen today? I just hope not everything my world not gonna crash on me today. So
Right.
right, I'm the second type. I'm the one that even now. I've been doing this for 5 years. We have I started with I started as just me myself. We have now 7 and 8 employees. We're doing well. We're growing. We have four companies in our group. Even today, I still don't know. Oh, was it the right idea? What am I doing? It's because it's always there was a doubt of is it all sustainable? Can we do it? But I think you go a bit more on a wider angle of entrepreneurs. Is you really, and I had a friend, a mentor that told me once there are enough people that can tell you what you cannot do.
Right.
And he told me my philosophy is to tell you that you can do it.
Yeah.
Because there are enough people out there that oh no, it's too risky. Why would you do it? Why would you? And again, I'm fortunate to have a brother, family building. My wife was very supportive. She go for it even now. Let's do it. Let's go on this journey. Um, so a lot of hesitations, a lot of doubts, but I think with support of the people around me, I managed to, and again, and a good business, I would say launchpad. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we managed to make it work out.
Which is, I mean, that's, I love that you brought that up about the two types of entrepreneurs, because I think everyone just kind of assumes the first type is the only type, right? Where they're like, well, I mean, I couldn't go into business for myself. I'm not super confident. I'm like, you know how many people out there own a business who wake up and are like, well, I wonder if today's the day I shut down. Well,
Right.
I don't know. Going to work
Yeah.
though, right? So I mean, there is that, there are those entrepreneurs out there, and I think that's probably a good place to kind of wrap up this episode, because we're going to launch into episode 2 where we get to actually talk about. I'm sure you get into your own business and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, now I'm in charge of marketing. Now I'm in charge of accounting. Like,
Right.
hey, Dad, where's your giant computer? Right? I need to, I need to, fire that thing up. So I'm really excited to hear about that. But that is such an awesome story about how you went, again, from Tel Aviv watching black and white TV to all of a sudden you're running precious metals in Hong Kong. I mean, it's such a crazy stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and living in more. I'm living now in. You wouldn't believe. Living in the house is 21 times bigger than the house I had 10 years ago.
Hey, I bet there are not many people who can say they increased their house by 21 times. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all relative in life, right?
Yes,
right.
yes.
Well, hey, real quick. So, does your wife still do ballet? Is she still dancing?
No. She's we did a lot of. Actually, we did half of our time long distance because she moved from ballet to perform in one of those a big move to Macau, which is another kind of where Macau is off between Hong Kong and China, where she performed for one of the big kind of Cirque du Soleil style shows.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So she performed there, and she moved to China to choreograph there. So she's been doing a lot of stuff. She's not dancing anymore. She's now like a lot of retired dancers. She has her Pilates studio. Because she's also kind of running her own small business.
That's awesome.
At the moment.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, she did a lot of. I can tell you the house we moved here 11 years ago. This is now the 8th house we're living in.
Oh wow.
Because we traveled so much and she traveled so much, and we tried to catch up with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
But now I think now now with kids and everything, we're a bit more settled. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Wow, that's good stuff. That's great.
All
right.
Well, here let's do the speed round. Okay, so if you were to go back in time and give 8-year-old Josh, who's probably watching black and white cartoons, some advice, what advice are you giving yourself?
I'm thinking about it. I saw the question yesterday, and you're gonna laugh. I'll say the one advice: less books, more ball games.
You can overread, man. I'm really on the far other side of that bet, though.
No, but I'll tell you why. Because I was doing, I was reading, and I was that's like you have baseball and football in Israel. It's like Europe. It's soccer. The ability to play ball with other people and to talk about sport is one of the biggest icebreakers globally, no matter where you go. If you talk about sport, if you know sport, if you like sport, or if you play any ball game, that's really an icebreaker. That immediately gives you kind of a topic to talk with people and all that. So that would be my advice
Okay.
for more for easier life in terms of creating a network and breaking ice with people that you meet. And business, it's all about people. People want to do business with people.
Yep.
Play a bit more soccer out there.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
There we go. All right, so you kind of went over it, but question number 2: any book you had to read, what would you read? or recommend people read?
So we're talking about two types of entrepreneurs. So really read Shoe Dog. I don't know if you know the book.
Shoe
It's
Dog?
the story of the guy. The guy that founded Nike.
Oh,
Forgot his
yeah, Phil
name.
Knight.
And yeah, great book. Really funny, and he's really the entrepreneur that woke up in the morning, neurotic, anxiety, feeling everything's gonna collapse today, and how he managed to pull that until today. Amazing, 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 amazing book for entrepreneurs. And one more, by the way, is which I'm rereading now, reading again now, is called the Diamond Cutter, and it's a more spiritual. It's an American that became a Buddhist monk that went to work in New York in a big diamond company, implementing Buddhism in his daily management, and that company ended up being sold to Warren Buffett for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So
There
about
you
how
go.
to kind of ethically run your business, how running your business ethically will create good karma that will generate more business. So
Don't
Shoe
believe
Dog
it.
and Diamond Cutter.
I don't believe it. Karma, no, that's not
Yeah.
a thing.
Well,
That's
Josh,
awesome.
we'll have to implement Buddhist practices into our podcast, and maybe some, Joe Rogan will buy our podcast.
I hope so. Let's do it. I love it.
Last two. So getting off business, but if I happen to take a last minute flight to Hong Kong and I'm feeling a little hungry, where's the best eatery? I love food.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see the background. We're in a sign point, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Hong Kong. A lot of local eateries here. I would say either one of the dim sum. We have a great dim sum around the corner, still traditional,
Yeah.
walking with carts. So they're walking around with
Ooh.
carts. You can pick up that thing, see what's there, and they put it on your table.
Ah,
Or what
so
I
good.
like, and it's my kind of my addiction for breakfast, it's the egg noodle soup. So start your day with a big bowl of noodle soup. Cover, on top of it, you put fried egg with a hot milk tea. It's it's breakfast of champions.
I'm booking my flight right now.
Yeah.
I'm on my way.
You're in the 18th in the morning. It's the 17th past dinner time here, so I'm starving now. Josh, you want to take the last one there?
Yeah. So, Mark and I have been friends for a long time. We know what it's like working with people that you like and know, but you're working with your family, right? I know Zvika was on. I'm saying that right, Zvika, right?
Yeah.
He was on. But what is it like working with family? And has there been some good banter back and forth, or do you guys get on each other's nerves or make fun of each other?
All the above. It's I can tell you for us, it's challenging, and there's a lot of upside. I mean, in terms of brain power, because I got smart brothers. In terms of loyalty, in terms of wanting the business to succeed, you can't hope for anyone better than your own
Sure.
family. And our father that still help us on the as a chairman is still running his accounting firm, and
Yeah.
still helps us on that. But it's not easy. I mean, we're very very close, the three of us, which means we can either explode or we get along very well. So
Right.
it's hard. I mean, I think me and Tvika sitting here next to me, we're still been working together for 3 years. We're still struggling with my other brother, which is a director, Jonathan. I think there was a year we didn't speak last year, 2020. So, but I mean, we grow and we try to make it work. One thing that my brother told me, we need to make sure it's fun. And I
Yeah.
think we're trying now to turn a page and make sure it's fun, because no doubt I cannot ask for any better advice, a totally objective advice than anyone rather than my family members, my brothers, my father. But we do need to make sure it remains fun. So I'm trying to do my best. Vika is trying to do is trying to do his best. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. So it's challenging, but it's
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think again, it's one of the reasons that we hear, and especially in our industry, for clients, I think they like the fact that we're family business, because gold, we can talk about it later, gold, some of it is about preserving wealth to the next generation. So a lot
Sure.
of people think about their family in mind when they invest in gold, and they like to see that there's a match in terms of our values and their values.
Yeah.
I
Good
I
stuff.
got I got $10 saying that he's got one of his brothers on the other end of the camera, like swinging his shirt over his head or something, trying to get him to break character. Like,
Trying to make him laugh.
Awesome. We'll wrap up there. Real quick, where can people find more information about the J.Rotbart Company and just find you on social media or your website?
Yeah.
Go ahead and plug that info.
Yeah, so just J.Rotbart.com, and there's a YouTube channel where we're gonna upload this podcast. LinkedIn, J.Rotbart on LinkedIn, on Facebook, website, the standard, everything is there. All the information, everything that people need. And actually, I think even the website has my phone number, so anyone can WhatsApp me if they have any questions or anything.
And everyone start texting him now. So, and we will have all the links to those in the podcast descriptions. So if you are listening or watching, go to the descriptions. You can click on and find them there. If you're driving, don't do that and just check it out later. So,
don't text and drive, people.
Yes. I've never done that. Well, thank you so much for being on. Can't wait to hear a little bit more about your industry and about a little bit more of actually the business operations and the different services. Real quick, nothing we say can be taken as tax, legal, or financial advice on this podcast. So if anything sounds interesting, or if you're interested in the precious metals industry, you need to talk to a lawyer, a financial advisor, a CPA. Get your legal counsel around you before you make any decisions, or call the J.Rotbart Company. You have his phone number now. So
yeah.
Well, awesome.
Don't take investment advice from a podcast. Do your own research.
So, well, thank you very much, and we cannot wait to have the next episode.
Thanks, everybody.